Welcome to Barrett and Baxa. Everyone else has a podcast. Why not us? Come along and join the chosen few.
All right, welcome to another episode of Barrett and Baxa Media Schmedia. We are so excited today. We finally have the guest that we've been waiting for quite some time.
For a long time.
This is a man that Steve and I love so much. And I just want to say, I love this guy so much. Other than my actual father, this man has been a father figure to me. He is a mentor. He hired me to be on TV. He hired Steve to be on TV. I absolutely love this guy. I'm so excited. He's a former TV anchor. He is a legendary news director. He is a legendary figure in the TV business. And Steve and I are both unbelievably excited and proud to welcome the one and only Bob Jordan to our show today.
Oh, yeah, I'm not sure what I could possibly do or say to earn such an introduction, Bob, but I'll do my best.
Thank you.
Well, let me just line up a few of the things, Bob. I'm gonna go through your career just very quickly, at least what I understand about it. I know you worked at KCMT, which was in Alexandria.
First television job, and June 1st was a Sunday, 1969, Alexandria, Minnesota, Channel 7. I walked in the television station, of course, in a small market on a Sunday. There's only the board operator there, and I was supposed to do a 15-minute newscast, and I followed the live Catholic Mass.
Nice.
Okay, so the priest finished his deal, and then they swung the camera over to me, and I did the news. And of course, it was like being on the radio. I didn't have there was no video, so it's just me reading wire copy.
Wow.
But it's 15 minutes. This is my first time on television.
Wow.
You talk about being pushed into the pool and say swim. That was it. I remember getting off the air and my throat was just parched, and I thought, oh my God, I made it.
Wow.
Nice.
Well, I was 5 months old. If that was when that happened, I was 5 months old.
I got to tell you, 1969.
I was 3 years old.
That was the biggest news summer. You had Man on the Moon. You had the Tate LaBianca murders in Los Angeles.
Oh, yeah.
You had the Mets in the World Series. Lots of stuff going down in Vietnam. And you had Teddy Kennedy, drowning Mary Jo Kopechne. And it was like, what have I fallen into, you know?
Wow, what a time.
I worked in a radio station while going to college, and I got a degree to be a school teacher. And the pay at the time to be a school teacher was $6,500. I was already making that much working in radio. I said, I'm not doing this. So there was this local TV station, and I watched it, and I said, I could do that. So I went over there, applied for a job, and I got hired.
Wow. So you really didn't go to college with the intent of being in television news.
No, but I had the news bug, Steve, from an early age. When I was in the 6th grade, I delivered the Minneapolis Morning Tribune, and I would come home and read that newspaper cover to cover while my mother was making breakfast and getting my sisters up to go to school. So, and then at night, I'm really dating myself now. I had a little radio under my pillow, and I would listen to the Big Ten news on WCCO radio, and the newscaster was E.W. Zebarth.
E.W. Zebarth. That's a good name.
Golden voice, yes. And so I was, back then they called it current events in school, and I was always the champion kid on current events. So I was born with the news gene.
Yeah. Nice. And you had 45 years, I think you worked in broadcast news. At least that's what I saw Chris Ahrens.
50, including radio.
Yeah, I called up, and I had it called up when we were doing when we were trying to use Riverside. Now we're using Zoom, back to the old days of the Barrett and Baxa podcast. So I had this article called up, and I'm reading this article in Adweek magazine about you retiring, 45 years in the business, and it's none other than Chris Ahrens having written the article.
Oh, yeah.
So even your retirement article is someone you hired.
Chris Ahrens, great young man. Here's a little trivia fact on Chris Ahrens. He's from the family that owns the the Aaron's lawnmowers.
Oh yeah.
Did you know that?
I did not
Oh,
know that
I would
about
always
Chris.
tease him. I would say, "Did you get your checks this month? You know, I know you're a trust fund kid because you're better dressed than what I'm paying you." So he was a good guy.
Well, so let's talk about this. So you, from what my list is that you were at KIRO, you were at WFTV, of course, which is where we work together. WPTV, you brought me to PTV for my second stint. WFTS, you built a newsroom, and I want to talk about that later. Building a newsroom from scratch, because not a lot of news directors did that. You usually walked into a newsroom that was already established, and you didn't have to come up with the entire staff. So KCBS. You were at. Am I missing any television stations there?
No, you're doing it in reverse order, and you're right so far. Let me help you with it. After that would be King Television Seattle. Before that, KCRA Sacramento. Briefly, KPRC Houston. Then I go back to Orlando. I actually worked in Orlando 3 times, and after now I'm going to go back and do Orlando. My wife and I moved to Orlando the first time in 1976, stayed there 5 years, had a great run, got hired at KSTP in Minneapolis, my hometown. Went back to Orlando for a second run and then made a tour of the West Coast. So I had more moves in my career than I ever thought I would, but I enjoyed it. I enjoyed every day of my career, every single day. I love the TV news business. Sadly, it's not what it was.
There's no way
we want to talk about that.
Yeah, there's no way that you can remember all of the people, obviously, that you came across. But I come across them all the time, and I'm amazed by this, Bob, because, for example, last night I went to dinner with Mike Garber. He's now the news director at Channel 5 here in Minneapolis, the job that you once held. But you hired Mike and his wife, Melissa. You really brought that couple together. And that's not the only couple that you have brought together during your career. I mean,
no, there have been several.
How's it feel to have touched so many people's lives and to still have, I mean, I read an article in Forbes magazine. It's written by Mark Joyella. I mean,
oh, sure.
I constantly come across people and I say, wait a second, I worked with them. And they were people that you brought on, Bob. How's it feel to sort of have that kind of a legacy in the business?
I've always believed when building a newsroom or a team to get the very best people that you can get your hands on. And I know everybody says they do that. I believe in the bell curve theory. Simply put, it's this: every human trait or condition, ability can be measured along a numerical scale. The most talented person is a 100, a numbskull is a 0. But for all the abilities and traits of humanity, they fall along what turns out to be a bell curve. God must have loved the average man because he made so many of them. But when you're staffing a newsroom or building a football team, you don't want average players. You want an unnatural collection of people who are smarter than average, more ambitious than average, have more integrity than average, more compassion than average. And when you put together a group like that, and I did that one time in my career from scratch, and that was in Tampa in '94 when the great affiliation switch happened because of the NFL package moving around. And I hired over 100 people in a very short order, but we got very good people, and got very good results right out of the gate.
That was a great newsroom. You brought me on a little bit later.
I also told them, and you'll forgive me, I told my wife I wouldn't use any profanity, but I remember telling people that this newsroom is a no asshole zone. Remember that, Steve?
Yes, I do. I remember.
And I know that you, Steve, have heard the bell curve speech because I gave it to everybody.
Yeah, you did. You did. I think I've heard all of your speeches because I might have been one of your longest employees. You hired me 3 different times at 3 different television stations. And I loved working for you because I knew that everybody around me was going to be doing their job too. So it sucked to work in a newsroom where the slackers were allowed to be slackers. And in your newsroom, that wasn't the case.
No, and one thing, let me say something that needs to be said about you, Steve Barrett. Of all the people I worked with in television, you were the true Renaissance man. You had so many skills. You were a great photographer, editor, writer, producer. You were great on the air. Most people don't have all those talents. And I remember I was working in Tampa, and you were across the street, I think, at Channel 13.
Yes.
And you won some award that you were a photographer, but you put together some piece and you won it. You won it as in the
best reporting.
category.
Yeah.
And I said, we went to the dinner where they were handing out the trophies. And I said to someone, I said, we're going to hire this guy. They won't, Channel 13 won't know what hit him. We're going to hire him. And I remember asking you to put together a tape for me. And I remember the tape. You had done something about changing oil on a car. Do you remember?
No, it was the Firestone tires. How to check your Firestones
and
to
you
see
were
if
on
they're
a
the bad
dolly,
tires.
and you rolled yourself underneath the car, and it was great reporter involvement that made sense. And I said, this guy's a natural. So I hired you, and then hired you again, and never regretted it, not once.
Thank you, Bob. I appreciate that. Baxa, I know that you have plenty of Bob Jordan stories and thoughts. So
I do. The thing I want to say to you, Bob, is that we've talked so many times. The perception, Steve and I have talked about this. The perception at Channel 9 is that there were kind of teachers' pets, almost people that really loved you and that you sort of loved. And my theory is that if you're a person who wants to be left alone by your boss and not bothered at work, you're going to love working for Bob Jordan, because as long as everything's perfect, you're left alone. And if you're a person who needs to be told every day what a fantastic job you did, then you're going to hate working for Bob Jordan, because you're never going to tell people what a fantastic job they did.
Well, that's not true, Bob. I handed out my compliments, but I was well aware of the fact that if you hand out too many compliments, you devalue any individual compliment. So but I really appreciated the contributions people made, and I knew that I had a great team around me. And as far as teacher's pet, I didn't have any favorites. I had players that were stronger than some other players, and I imagine being a news director is like being a football coach. Yeah. You got a couple of players on the team who are, really franchise players. And do they get treated differently? No, they get the ball more often, and they get more respect, and they get more money. But if you're on the team, I promise you'll be treated fairly, and I'll hold you to a high standard.
I absolutely agree with that. And one of my favorite quotes of yours that I heard you say one time, someone asked you, why don't you give more positive feedback? And this was in a meeting. I don't know why this person was asking this question in a meeting. And I'll never forget your answer. You said, I do give positive feedback. It comes in an envelope and we put it in your mailbox every 2 weeks. And I always remembered that. And because to me, that was saying, the fact that I'm paying you, that's your positive feedback.
I must say, Bob, I regret saying that, if I ever in fact said that, because that's kind of a smart ass answer. And
I loved it. I thought it was great. I thought it was a great answer.
I think one of my base philosophies was that when you run a meritocracy newsroom, that you owe, every time you have an opening, as the news director, you have an opportunity to increase the overall quality of the staff by hiring smartly. And you owe it to people already on the team to bring in somebody who is as good or better than they are. And when occasionally someone makes it through the submarine nets who turns out not to be so good, it's not fair to the team you already have. And then that requires corrective action.
Hey, Steve, I want to get into the specific questions about Bob's career. And the thing that I've always wondered, Bob, is obviously you were on the air. In fact, you were the main anchor along with Bob Opsahl at Channel 9 while also being the news director, which I feel pretty confident does not exist anywhere in the country. Maybe it does somewhere. I don't
Maybe a
think it
small
does.
market here and there,
Maybe
Yeah,
but
some small
yeah.
market. So what made you, at what point did you say, I don't want to go in that direction and maybe become Peter Jennings someday. I want to go in this direction and strictly go the management route?
Pretty early on, my first job in TV, I was also the news director and the anchorman, but the news department was like 4 people. So,
Right.
like, big deal, Bob.
Right.
And then I was a talent, but I didn't find it as rewarding as leading a team and influencing editorial control.
Huh.
so
Cool.
the anchoring wasn't something necessary. It was something that you did because you needed to do it, not necessarily something that you were super passionate about and wanted to make
Exactly,
that your
Steve.
legacy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It
I,
paid well.
I kind of felt the same way. I never really wanted to be on television. I just got so frustrated with the reporters that I worked with being a pain in the ass and, missing parts of stories and things like that, that I said, "Give me that microphone and I'm going to do it myself."
Unfortunately,
But
today's crop of journalists, many of them, not all, but many of them, don't want to be a journalist. They just want to be on television.
Yes.
These are the people who do the TikTok posts, the
yeah,
on-air marriage proposals, what tie should I wear today, twerking in the studio, all sorts of foolish stuff, which undermines the credibility of their news organization. And I find it extremely off-putting. I never allowed it, but it's a different world now.
Bob, I remember specifically a time when social media was sort of beginning in the news business, and there was a
Right.
lot of push from some management that, hey, you have to focus a good portion of your day on your social media. I never really believed that because I didn't really think that social media, someone was going to watch something on Facebook or wherever and then tune into the news because of what they saw online. But it seemed to me that you pushed back against that a little bit, even though now it's everybody's doing it.
Well, I'm old school and proud of it. I thought it was certainly a new medium with lots of potential, but not entirely compatible with what we had done and delivered news. And let's face it, I'd be the first to admit, we saw it coming. The old model of putting together a 30-minute newscast or 60 minutes and scheduling it at a standard time every day of the week, every week of the year is dead. And we're all this little thing here.
Right.
I don't need to wait for 10:18 or 11:18 p.m. to get the weather. Anytime I want the weather, it's here. If I want to check the stock market, it's right here. If I want some sports scores, it's right here. And most television stations today do not produce compelling, meaningful, worthwhile content. It's thin, it's shallow. There is no there. It is not worth my time to sit down and watch a local TV newscast. Now, I still do. My wife and I are creatures of habit. We watch the local CBS affiliate here, Wink TV. They do a pretty good job, and we really like the new CBS Evening News. So we watch that hour religiously. But like everyone else in America, and I just was reading some recently, evenings at our house, streaming, only streaming.
Right.
I spend more time on YouTube, and I probably have 100 channels indexed because I have various interests, and I'll go through them to see what new posts are. And there's very little on, well, almost nothing on broadcast television that appeals to me except live sports and major event coverage. And I was never into the Emmys or the Grammys. I could care less about that kind of stuff.
Right.
But those programs still generate an audience. I like America's Got Talent.
I do. That show is great.
There are a
Love
few
that show.
shows that I like, but the decline of audience on broadcast television, the networks are generating less revenue, so they are not able to afford quality programming. So they fill their schedule with cheap product, which doesn't attract an audience, which drives their ad revenues down even further. It's a race to the bottom, is what's going on now. And I don't think the networks are going to be around much longer. They just aren't going to survive because no one's watching them.
Bob, on that subject, it's one of the things that Bob and I like to talk about here, but where do you think journalism goes from here?
Do you know what we have seen here is a balkanization, if you will, of journalism. There are, and I'm sure I know you know this. You go on YouTube there are thousands of content providers like you guys who have found a niche, even down to something as minute and narrow interest as your local homeowners association website, or our friend Peter Bernard up in the Villages. They have their own little small group of people who produce content. It's very difficult to finance a quality news gathering operation and have any kind of return on it anymore. So there are all sorts of problems related with that. Not the least of which is, some of the people who are producing content, they're not real good at it. They're not trained journalists. Some of them have access to grind. There's a lot of misinformation, and unfortunately, people tend to swallow what they watch without questioning it. It's sad. Our democracy is worse off. When I grew up, I'm 79 years old. When I grew up in Minneapolis. There were 4 television stations, KSTP, WCCO, and back then WTCN, and everybody watched those 3 channels. And then there was an independent KMSP. And at school the next day, everybody talked about what they saw on TV last night. We all watched the same shows.
Right.
We all listened to KDWB radio or WDGY, top 40 stations. We all had the same music. That's why there was a top 40. Today, music sucks, but that's a whole other channel.
Yes, it does.
But my point is, growing up, we had this shared experience as a culture, as a demographic. That does not exist today. It's so fractured, so balkanized, which makes it harder to unite people. It makes it harder to establish a common agenda for our country to pursue. It makes it easier for people to get away with lying and misleading people. I don't like it, but I don't know what the solution is.
Yeah, it's tough. I don't know what it is either. I mean, a station like Channel 9 in Orlando, can it continue? Because I think about the sales department upstairs, calling up Toyota of Orlando and saying, can you please buy some ad time on WFTV? And then the guy at Toyota of Orlando says, well, your ratings are kind of suck. I mean, why? I don't want to spend money with you because you don't have very good ratings. And and then you, like you said, you can't spend the money that you don't have. I mean, is there a point where Cox is going to just say, you know what, we don't even need to have WFTV and just shut the whole thing down?
Cox already did that. It's not Cox anymore. Oh. They sold to, I like to call them vulture capitalists called Apollo, and now they're trying to sell the station. Okay. They stripped it bare. It's a skeleton of what it once was, and I'm not. I don't mean that as criticism. That's just a factual observation. This is important. The Eighth Circuit Court of Appeals, I was reading this just recently, has struck down the top 4 rule. It's now allowed, it will be allowed for one owner to own 2 of the top rated television stations in a market. That means, for example, Hearst, which owns Wesh, and Hearst is still a viable company. Hearst could buy Channel 9 from Apollo and then
have the 2 top stations.
And there are several markets where the network affiliates, 2 network affiliates, are operated by one entity. It's right here in the Fort Myers market. Our NBC and ABC affiliates, which have now branded themselves as Gulf Coast News, have the same ownership. Now, if one company owns 2 television stations, and I'm not talking a simple duopoly like WFTV and WRDQ, I'm talking about 2 classic network operations. You only need one general manager. You only need one news director. You only need one sales manager. You don't need 150 journalists, photographers, editors, producers, writers. You need half that. So I would, if I were an 18, 19-year-old kid aspiring to work in television news, I would hope that I had some smart relative to tell me, don't go there.
Yes.
Because it is a declining business. It's not going to go away. I'm not saying that, but there will be fewer people with fewer resources doing more work for fewer viewers.
Is that a very bad thing for local news, for finding out what's going on in your local community, or will there be something else that comes and takes its place?
Well, some of the big players made some small moves to try to establish local news operations. They backed out. There will be a local news. Well, first of all, back up. There is no need for 3 or 4 local television news operations in any city in America, all covering the same stories every day, presenting them at the same time with the same shallow, weak content. We don't. That's the pie is not big. We're not going to cut the pie into 4 slices anymore. We're going to have a smaller pie that one guy owns and serves up.
Right. Yeah.
It's that simple. There will always be local news. Since the dawn of mankind, and the cavemen sitting around the fires like to tell stories about what they saw today, how many elk ran by and how many people they hit over the head with a club. It's still going to be that way. But we don't need in any given city, we don't need 150 reporters doing the job.
Yeah.
Give me a third that number, but make them all good.
Yeah, and we had local newsrooms had that. Channel 9 would have 17 reporters on the streets someday. That's a lot of news to come up with.
I mean, at one point, I think we had 19 full-time general assignment reporters and 21 or 23 photographers. Every show had a producer. We had separate anchor teams. We produced good content. I'm proud of the work we did at Channel 9. I'm a strong believer in enterprise journalism, original content that's significant and that's local. And we demanded that we taught people how to do it. And that's why we were successful in that market. But those were the golden days, and I had my time. Now it's someone else's turn.
Yeah.
All right. Bob, do you have something? Because I want to switch gears, but if you have something else, Steve.
Yeah, no, go, Bob. Go back.
So I wanted to, you see that I wore my Trump shirt. I don't want to make this all about Trump. I mostly wear Trump shirts just to piss off the libs who write us horrible comments on our little videos. But what do you think, Steve and I, right before we got on with you, we just pulled up CNN's a headline on CNN from today, and the headline said Trump flees Washington. They used the word flee. And Trump flees Washington as Epstein. What is Epstein rumor swirl? It's presented that like Trump is running away from Washington, and the subheadline says White House claims that this is a working vacation, but his schedule is very light. So those two words, flees and claims, are so negative. I wanted
Well,
to ask
Bob,
you. Go ahead.
when you do that, when CNN does that, it first of all, that's emotive language. To flee the scene, like let's flee the scene of what, a bank robbery, or we're going to flee the scene of a raging fire. When you use emotive language like that, which is charged, you alienate half the audience, or maybe it's only a third. We are at the point now where the quote journalism that sells is not so much journalism as it is opinion driven. And that's, if you're a conservative, there are Newsmax, Fox News Channel, of course, the giant, right, on the right, and on the left, MSNBC. I watch them all just to see what they're up to. I will confess that I'm a middle of the road to mildly conservative guy, just the way I am. Anybody who knows me knows that about me. But I never let my personal political opinions color the selection of a story, which, by the way, is the easiest way to contaminate content. You just don't cover some stuff, or you cover stuff that shouldn't be covered. You make a big deal out of it. But I never let my own personal opinion color the editorial process. And when I thought people were getting caught up into it, it was my duty to correct them. I miss the days of, just tell me what happened today. Tell me what people said. Tell me what people did. Yes, ask provocative questions. A good reporter is curious. A good reporter is skeptical. A good reporter does not take at face value whatever they're taking. That's a truism. It's also a truism that all politicians lie.
Yes.
Prevaricate, obfuscate.
Yeah.
You have to. It's the duty of the reporter to work through that, but it is not the duty, obligation, or the right of the reporter to inject their own bias into a story and produce a story that is one-sided. When I see that happening, I tune them out. Unfortunately, a lot of people who watch opinion/news, they find comfort that the news they're watching agrees with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's something for everybody. And there's a lot of money to be made by doing news that way. Roger Ailes, love him or hate him, when they came along to launch the Fox News channel, they said, America doesn't need another news channel. We've already got 3 of them.
Right.
Why do another one? There is a market, he said, for let's cover the news from a conservative perspective. Now, it's gotten way overboard.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, do I watch Fox News? Yes, I do. I watch Jesse Waters every night.
Yeah,
I find him entertaining. I find him talented, but I find him biased as hell. I watch Rachel Maddow. I watch some of the libs on MSNBC just because I want to know what they're talking. Now, as far as Trump going to Scotland, is he getting out of Dodge because of this Epstein stuff? I don't know. Could he be? Yeah, sure he could. I personally don't like Donald Trump for his personal character. It's just he's not somebody I would trust with my wife, my dog, or my wallet for the weekend. But I do like the fact that The border's been cleaned up. I do like the fact that Iran got poked in the nose. This quote, big, beautiful bill. I don't know about that. But the economy, the liberals said that the economy was going to tank, that tariffs would explode our economy, and that, we have World War III. Well, gee whiz, none of this stuff has happened. So, okay, and now then on the other side, Fox News Channel talks about Donald Trump being one of the greatest presidents ever. Oof. I don't know that I can go there. Bob, I know you can, but
I do love him. But why does he drive them so crazy? Why does Trump cause them? I mean, Trump derangement syndrome. We see this on your Facebook page all the time. I love to come to your Facebook page to argue with your liberal friends, as I do all the time. But I've never seen people driven this crazy by a politician. Why does Trump cause them to just, it's almost like they've got mental illness from Trump.
Bob, let me lean forward into the camera, and I'll look right into this little camera up on the top here and say, Bob, could it be because he's a con man and he was impeached twice and he's a misogynist, probably a racist?
Okay. Could be.
That's now. Sometimes people who have all sorts of character flaws get things done. And I think maybe that's going to be the explanation for Donald Trump's success.
Getting things done.
That's just me thinking out loud.
Right.
I may go back.
Good theory.
I may go back and say, "Gosh, I wish I hadn't said that to those guys." I will say I didn't vote for him. I didn't.
I know you didn't. No, you've told me in other conversations that you have never voted for him. But so yeah, I mean that's a good theory. People do say that. I don't see. I mean, I guess the misogyny I can see. I do not see the racism. I've never seen racism from Trump. But maybe I'm less sensitive to it. I'm also a white guy, so maybe I'm not finding the stuff that's right there. Based on my lived experience or something. I don't know.
I will say this, and this is the way I read the political tea leaves. I watch the Democratic Party is in a world of hurt right now. They took Joe Biden, God bless him. He should not have run for re-election. It was obvious to me, and I'm a fairly smart guy, and I never disliked him. But I would watch him on TV, and I would just go, "Oh gosh!" My wife and I go and visit her sister up in an assisted living facility up in Palm Harbor, and I said, "Sharon, that looks like that guy we see up at Shady Pines or whatever the name of the place is." And something's wrong. Stumbling, can't finish a sentence, and then it was obvious people around him were covering up for him to me. And I was saying, and when I first started saying that, people were saying, "Oh, you're crazy. You just hate the guy." No, I'm not crazy. Even Jake Tapper admits it now. So then he kind of followed up the process of the Democratic Party selecting a nominee, and we got Kamala Harris, who, in my opinion, does not show off well. And and she was such a bad candidate that she was not able to beat this awful, awful human being, Donald Trump. I mean, awful. That's how weak she was.
Right.
We got Trump because the Democrats offered up a weak candidate. Now you watch the Democratic Party, and this is my free advice. If they want to send me a check, go right ahead. Who are the high-profile people in the party now? Gavin Newsom, who is slick, a chameleon, slippery. Then the crazos. What's her?
Oh, the
AOC.
AOC.
AOC is actually
Jasmine Crockett.
Jasmine Crockett.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, the Republicans have got some nut jobs too. Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Yeah, but she has no national profile. She's never going to be mentioned in the same breath as J.D. Vance and Marco Rubio. I mean, I think the Republican bench is very deep just with those two right there. Either one of them.
Politically speaking, Bob, I think you're right. And one of the Democrats I really respect because of his track record and his smarts is James Carville.
Okay.
He's a good old boy, you know, and he calls him like he sees him. When he talks, I listen. But he'll do his share of spinning. But what I'm looking for is people who will just admit to the truth, admit to the obvious. Now this candidate who's running for mayor of New York City.
Oh my God!
The attack ads for the GOP are writing themselves. It's not smart. It's not smart. The Democrats have to, in my opinion, offer up a more middle of the road candidate. The trouble is, for both the Republicans and Democrats, if you're a moderate in either party, you can't get your party's nomination because the fringe control the process.
So, Bob, let me ask you this, because it's my opinion that journalism sort of killed itself. And one of the ways that they did that was separating the right from the left and forcing Americans to choose their news based on their bias, right? And on that spectrum, you can have various opinions about various things, but you're supposed to categorize them based on, you know, sort of where you're listening to the news. And then came the big lie about Joe Biden. Like, you don't see that he's losing it. You don't see, you know, you talked about that. It's painful to watch him sometimes. I say the same thing about Trump. Sometimes I'm like, oh, what's he going to say next? This press conference. But Joe Biden was clearly having trouble, and the media on the left was not willing to admit it. And I think that they eroded a lot of the trust in American journalism because of that. And I don't know how
Steve,
you get that back.
That is an understatement. That is an understatement. It was obvious that they were covering for him, especially 2020 vision being what it is. People writing books, making money on the fact that I'm going to admit that I covered for Joe Biden. Give me a $10 million book advance, and I'll tell you what I did and what I ignored. that horse is out of the barn. You can't argue that one away. No, I hear so many people say, even myself, I've gotten to the point now where I'm not sure what I can believe that I read on the internet. The internet's the most suspicious place of all. But I know that the people who are producing news for us are getting their ideas from the internet. It used to be, you want to know what it's going to be in the New York Times? Read the Drudge Report. You know, they're all following each other. There's not enough original, independent journalism. I was watching something. My grandson sent me something just a couple of days ago. The reporter who interviewed Biden's son, Hunter, interviewed him. It was a 3.5-hour interview. Well, I'm not going to listen to Hunter Biden for 3.5 hours. I'm too old. I'm not going to waste that part of my life. But the guy was, I was really taken how skilled he was at interviewing him. So I went to his website and I watched a story, and I only watched like 2 minutes of it. He went down to, I think it was Tijuana, some border town, and he came across a young Hispanic man, I'd say 20, 23 years old, who was born in the United States. Pardon me. Brought to the United States by his parents, who were illegals, brought to America when he was 3 months old, had grown up in America, spoke perfect English, no Spanish accent whatsoever, completely inculcated as an American. Mm-hmm. He goes to get a driver's license, and he doesn't have a Social Security card. Mm-hmm. And he asks his parents, "Why don't I have a Social Security card?" And then they told him. So what? He gets rounded up, he gets deported. And this kind of the sensitivity that I saw in that interview, I had empathy for that guy. Mm-hmm. Now I'm going back to my personal opinions now. Well, I think we should not allow criminals who are not citizens to stay here. What harm is there in having someone who came here as a child, not of their own volition, grown up in our society? They're working now. They have a family. Even if they've gotten in a few scrapes with the law, Why would we want to deport them? Should we start deporting all the native-born bad people? You could make as strong an argument. That guy, that white guy from West Virginia who's cooking meth in the trailer. Let's deport him to, I don't know, find some unnamed country somewhere. There's the same logic. I do believe that much of the support for mass deportation has a strong element of racism to it.
Really?
Yes, I do.
What about the argument that the Democrats, Joe Biden and the Democrats, threw open the doors of our country and allowed the number? I've heard numbers anywhere from 15 to 25 million people. And we don't know. There's no way of knowing. It's many millions of
All right,
people.
Bob, let's just say for the sake of discussion that it's 1 million people.
Okay.
Or 2, or you pick a number.
Okay.
The number doesn't really matter.
Right.
That's indefensible. You're not a country if you're not a sovereign country without borders.
Right.
What no other country, you try crashing some other country's borders and see how long you last. It's not racist to have borders.
Correct. That was my point.
And I've heard the far right say, "Oh, they're just bringing these people in there because they want them to grow up to be Democrat voters." Well, I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know at all. But I don't know why they did it. And
but the argument. The argument about Biden's open border doesn't necessarily apply to the dreamers that have grown up here, because these are people whose parents came across during, let's say, the Bush administration or the Clinton administration. And these are people that are older now, and they're people without a country. These are human beings that don't have a nation of their own at this point. And I agree, Bob, that we have to have sympathy for those people, and we have to figure out a way.
Sympathy is not enough, Steve. We have to have justice. And the heart of justice is fairness. If someone came to America as a child and has grown up in America, kept their nose clean, they're self-supporting, why would you want to kick them out? America is a land of immigrants. That's what makes America unique and strong. Now,
you're right.
Is it good to have uncontrolled immigration? Well, of course not. No sane person is saying that.
I don't know if you heard about this. This just happened yesterday, Bob. It's a resurfaced video clip featuring Democrat House of Representatives, Democrat Congresswoman Yvette Clarke from New York. She said out loud, she needs more immigrants in her district, quote, just for redistricting purposes. So she said it out. She said the quiet part out loud. She needs more in her district because people are leaving and she wants to keep Democrat seats in the House of Representatives. So that, to me, and I've heard that several times in the last couple of months, where a Democrat has said the quiet part out loud. We need people. They need them for the bodies. So the House of Representatives, the Democrats don't lose seats. Because,
at the risk of agreeing with you, I'm reminded now, and Steve, you're up there in Minneapolis. Minnesota it's always been, it's a very liberal state, my home state. Mm-hmm. There are a large number of Somali refugees.
We've talked about this, yes.
And it's not by accident that they all wound up, not all of them, but that a significant number wound up in a district that allowed for a Somali/American to have a seat in Congress. Do both parties jigger with the system, pull strings on the system, try to get things to their advantage, whether it's gerrymandering,
of course,
or
yes,
immigration? Sure.
And it will always be that way. That's not going to change anytime soon.
No.
This man who's running for mayor of Minneapolis, he refers to Somalia as our home. He calls Somalia our home. That's his quote. He has said it many times. And I just heard the other day a conservative podcaster named Matt Walsh He asked, well, if Somalia is referred to as our home, then his question, it was rhetorical. What makes an American an American? What makes anyone an American? What do you think, Bob?
Well, you're asking a guy who was born in America. But American, I'm an American, you're an American, it's my identity. My wife comes from Danish stock. Her father emigrated to the United States at age 19. Her mother, both her mother's parents came from Denmark and settled in Los Angeles. And Sharon's dad met Sharon's mom in Los Angeles. But my wife, to this day, as American as I am, but there's some Danish pride. Now, and when you talk about, does she call Denmark home? No. But if you came here from Somalia as a refugee, and Somalia was, my God, that was hell on earth. I can see why someone would have emotional connection to Somalia. What we expect as a culture is that while you can respect and honor where you're from, that you take on a new identity of being American. And so, am I offended that he calls Somalia home? No, not at all. Not. And there are a lot of Norwegian and Swedish and German people up there in Minnesota, Steve. Yeah. I went to school with all of them, and some of the cultural practices are still honored to this day. I want to remind you about lutefisk and lefse.
Yes.
I dare you to eat it.
Yeah.
No, I've heard about it. I just want to say real quick, what offends me is when an Ilhan Omar, who was welcomed into our country out of that horrible hellscape of Somalia, she was welcomed so nicely by us. And every time she opens her mouth, it's to talk about what a horrible, disgusting, despicable, racist place America is. That offends me. For someone like her to criticize constantly the country that welcomed her with open arms.
It makes me a little uncomfortable too, but in all fairness, I would have to say, Bob, what if there's just a grain of truth in what she's saying?
No,
maybe we should pay attention to that.
It's a good point.
For sure. Now, would I vote for her? Hell no.
All right.
She is crazy.
Well,
what do you got, Steve?
Bob Baxa, you've had us serious for a long time. I want to show Bob Jordan something right here. And if you're just listening to us, I'm picking up a very heavy old camera. Bob, take a look at that. Do you remember
that is a Bell & Howell DR70.
Look at that. He knew exactly what it was.
Look at that. Eyewitness News, Bob. My guess is that this very camera was loaded with film that was shooting some of your stuff back in the day.
Actually, no. When I got to Channel 9 in 1976, well, wait, we were still processing some film, but by then we had made the jump into video with the first generation of Sony DXC 1600. Was that the model, Steve?
DXC 3000 is what I started shooting on.
Well, they were. I mean, the camera in your iPhone is of studio quality now.
Yeah.
I do remember the DR70. My first job in Alexandria, Minnesota, I shot on a Bell & Howell DR70, and then I processed the film down in the basement. Seriously.
Yeah, no, I believe
it. And then I edited the film.
Yeah, wow. I'm going to keep this little guy forever, and it weighs a ton. It's just amazing. But Bob, you and Bob Baxa and I also, we've seen a transition in technology in this business that to me has just been amazing. Because I mean, my first camera, I had the camera on my shoulder, and I had the big backpack, a tape recorder on my other shoulder, and the live truck was huge. I mean, it took time to set up. You can go live on television with this little guy right in your hand. That has changed journalism immensely because...
Well, here's what it's done, Steve. It's improved the video quality. It makes the work flow much, much, much more efficient. But did it improve the quality of the reporting? No, because TV stations use technology to produce more news with the same number of people or fewer people. It wasn't, the audience didn't gain anything except maybe better picture quality. But it was, it's unfortunate that we didn't use the resource wisely.
All right. As long as we're
live trucks, oh my gosh, I stayed in the business long enough. I used to say, I want to stay in this business until we get rid of these damn live trucks. They're every one of them's $150,000. They're overweight. They're dangerous. I remember when you were covering some wildfires out in either East Orange or Brevard County. You and your photog were out there. I'm in the control room watching you, and it was a beautiful shot. You standing with your microphone in front of the Channel 9 live truck, and right behind the live truck, flames coming out of this forest. And I said, I went to the assignment desk and I told him, I said, tell Barrett to get that live truck the hell out of there. We can't afford to lose that.
And I said that live on the air that day.
Yes,
I said, I said, apparently I'm being told to get the satellite truck out of here.
Because the satellite truck.
Yeah, it was the satellite
That's a couple
truck.
of million. Yeah.
Right. So I had a satellite truck in the middle of a fire, and it takes time to break that thing down. People don't understand. You don't just put it in gear and drive away.
No,
or bad things can happen. So
weren't they really top heavy, because there was so much crap on the roof of the thing, right? Like, weren't they very top heavy when you would go around turns? It seemed like
you didn't want to get one into a police chase, although I did that many times. I took a live truck a few times in police chases in Orlando and in Tampa. So I was sort of fearless in that way. I love to get involved.
I remember
in that
we
kind
had
of
a
stuff.
couple of live trucks during my career where the driver, who was the photographer, who also ran the truck, wanted to go through the drive-through at McDonald's or through the drive-through at the drive-up bank to deposit his paycheck or whatever, and it snipped the antenna off.
Yeah.
Another 10 grand out the window.
Yeah, you had the big sign right there in front of you that said, 11 feet 9 inches or whatever the heck it was with those live trucks. But Bob, you did make it to the point where you because when you retired, backpacks the live views were just coming into use, and that sure changed a lot for you in the field, because you could just be live in moments, not the 15 minutes it takes to tune in the live truck and all of that stuff and run your cables and everything. So you saw it come full circle from film all the way to right here in your phone.
I was born in the right year. What can I tell you? I had a great run. I enjoyed every single day. I enjoyed the people I worked with. I love the creative process. I love being around curious people. It was fun.
It was fun to work for you. We absolutely loved working for you. I've told you this many times. I consider you a military style leader, and that's my favorite type of leader. Someone who you just, as long as you're doing your job correctly, they don't bother you, and I love that about you. It was,
and if you don't do your job or properly, and everybody has bad days. You were a boss that I always felt like if I screwed up, I walked into your office and I said, Bob, I screwed up. This is the bottom line. That was it. And you respected that. And I felt like you really felt like, okay, he knows what he did wrong.
After what you just said, I don't need to say a word to you.
Right. Yeah. One of the things we wanted to ask you about, because we had I don't know if you heard this on one of the episodes, but when you had to let Bob Baxa go, and it was a corporate business decision, was that hard for you to take good people and say, because it's a business decision, I have to cut ties with you?
Refresh my memory, Bob. I don't remember ever letting you go.
What happened was at some point you guys decided that you were going to take traffic reporting in-house, and you weren't going to use Metro Traffic anymore, and you were going to hire your own traffic reporter.
But then didn't we come and hire you?
No. You guys, because I had a non-compete, of course, in my contract, so you couldn't hire me, and you hired a very wonderful woman named Raquel Asa. You actually asked me if I would mind staying on and training her, which I did, and I remember people said to me, "Wow, that's so nice and brave of you to train your replacement," and I was like, well, "Why wouldn't I do that?" I mean,
by the way,
Bob asked me.
she was very good.
Very good.
Very good.
It's funny. My mind just blocked out the fact that we had to say goodbye to you because I liked you. So
yeah, that was a corporate thing, though. I recall it very well. It was a situation where Cox had this agreement with Metro Traffic, and by severing that agreement with Metro Traffic, you had to sever the agreement with everyone in Metro Traffic that worked at Channel 9. So it was a tough thing to do. And
thank you for refreshing my memory.
Wasn't Baxa's fault at all.
No, not at all.
And Steve, I could go forever, but we don't want to keep Bob all day. I would say maybe we should.
And there's been a good talk, Bob.
It's been a great talk. I hope we could do it again.
Yeah, I think I texted you, Bob, that I hope this is the first time we get to talk to you on this podcast and not the last time.
Oh, I'm good for another one.
All right,
and I'll
good.
try not to tell the same stories.
Right. We have so many other questions for you, but we'll save that for the next time. This has been fantastic. We really appreciate you doing it, Bob.
My pleasure.
Bob, thank you so much for joining us. And thank you so much you gave us a lot of support. You gave, in the beginning, we sent you some of the early podcasts, and some of your feedback was fantastic. And it really inspired us to keep going. So we want to thank you for that too.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
The invoice is on its way.
Well, that's it for this episode of Barrett and Baxa Media Schmedia. Like, subscribe, and do all that other stuff podcasts want you to do. Become one of the chosen few, the in crowd. You know, the cool kids. The ones who were passed out on Barrett's pool deck long after the party ended.
You can say I love you like you used to.